Well, it's April 2nd, and I got home late yesterday with the mill, so I haven't even taken it off the truck yet. And today, I gotta get it off the truck. So, it spent last night overnight outside here, and obviously that's not a good idea because I'm worried about flash rust on the table. A little bit here, but that was probably already from the unheated facility it was in. But it's still in pretty darn good shape right now, and I really don't want it to spend any more time outside than it absolutely needs to. Unfortunately, for immediate storage, the best I'm going to be able to do is my shed in the box deal, my Alpine enclosure over there. So I've got the I followed the recommendations that I could find online for moving one of these as far as how to lift it. Basically, they had a forklift, so we just put blocks underneath the ram on that side there and that side there, and then the forks of the forklift, basically one under there, one under there. They had forklift extensions, and they were able to put it right in for me, no problem. That was the easy part. Getting it off is going to be a little trickier. So I think I'm going to try and wrap a sling around that ram and lift it from overhead with the loader on the Oliver. Now, the other thing I did was I rotated the head around. You can see the, just like on a Bridgeport, the whole head will rotate around. So I rotated that down, and what that does for me is that lowers my center of gravity some. I also lowered the knee all the way down, but I lowered it down onto a block of wood. That's supposed to help take stress off of the worm screw underneath there, the elevation screw, during transit in case it ends up bouncing up and down. So I think I'm in pretty good shape. You can see here's one of the things that it's going to need to be addressed at some point: the reservoir for the one-shot lubrication system. The housing's cracked, but there's a name right on it, Bijur, B-I-J-U-R, so that should be pretty. I'll just search for that and see if one comes up. Worst case scenario, if I can't find one, I'll make one. I already got a couple ideas on how I can make one of those by getting some plexiglass or some type of material like that and epoxying it into a little box. And then you can see on this original one, all they did was they've got brass inserts that are probably epoxied, or they were probably, the plastic housing here was probably molded right around those. But there's no reason why I can't do something similar by epoxying in, drilling some holes for these sized inserts and then epoxying them in place. But hey, we got a long way to go before we have to worry about that. So first thing I need to know is I need to know what the height is of this thing currently. Alright, it's almost 5 feet from the top of the ram, almost exactly 5 feet from the top of the ram to the base here. Base is currently on the brackets for the fifth wheel, so it's a little bit above the, but I measured from the bottom of the base up. So it's 5 feet there, and then we got the handles and a couple of protuberances up at the top there. Protuberance? Never mind. Things sticking up. Okay, so I'll add a few inches for that. So let's see. So I can see right away that suspending it from the loader and driving it in there and lowering it's not going to work. I got about 7.5 feet of height to work with. So what I'm thinking I'm going to have to do is I'll have to get it off of the truck first, lower it onto the ground. Once it's on the ground, I think maybe I can drive underneath it with the bucket so that I've got quite a bit of the weight transferred right onto this part of the bucket, and then strap it into position so that it can't do one of these on me, tilt the bucket back a little bit and lift it just enough so that I can drive it in there. Question is, how much weight, A, will a loader lift it? B, even if the loader lifts it, is it going to take too much weight off the rear end? I'm thinking not, because I've got the backhoe attachment back there. That's quite a bit of weight there. But I mean, I had a problem. I mean, the multi-hoe, that loader had so much power. I could pick up boulders You see that boulder right there? That thing is huge. And the only reason I wasn't able to move it better was because even though the loader would pick it up, what would happen is the rear wheels would come off the ground and stop and lose traction. So the loader had the power to do it, it just didn't have enough weight in the back, even with the backhoe. So then I would put a big rock in the backhoe attachment to give me more ballast back there. And then the problem is the front tires would start to squash down, because the original tires, when they blew, I replaced them with these tires, and although these tires are pretty beefy, they must be a little bit softer than the other ones. I think the other ones were 12 ply and these were 10 ply, and other than that I don't think there was any difference. And I was probably just overloading the damn thing, but that's another story. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to back it up closer to the bulkhead so I can get this big gray cabinet off of here. This gray cabinet was included in the price along with everything that was in it. That's what took me so long yesterday, unloading everything. I've got some real goodies in there, and we'll get to that eventually. This is actually a pretty decent cabinet. I just lowered it down off the back this way, and it's got some heft to it. There's a cable that they cut the cord off of it. Goes to a light. I'll have to show you that. That's kind of neat. Guy rigged up a light in there. And you know, this is kind of beat up down here from dropping heavy stuff down. And there's a lot of stock, metal stock pieces in there. And got a couple of magnets. These look like they came from motors or something. Well, he must have just kept them handy when he needed a magnet stuck there. This is a Cole Steel Equipment Company of New York, made in the USA. So that's going to come in real handy. This tote is just full from this cabinet, and there's a lot of weight to it. Slid that off onto the back of the truck, right off of the forks of the forklift. But I don't have that luxury here. I'm just going to have to heft this sucker. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to maneuver the truck into position so that it's facing that way. Back it right up into here. And then that way I can just strap up, lift the mill just a couple inches off of the bed, and drive the truck right out from underneath it. Okay, there's the first setup. Now unstrap it. Alright, here's what I got to work with for lifting. To hook onto this thing, I've got this Haulmaster, sold through Harbor Freight, item number 95626, webbing sling. It's 2-inch wide by 6 feet long, and it's got a maximum vertical lift capacity of 6,400 pounds, well excess of what this weighs. Alright, here's the instructions that come with the sling. Basically, it's just a big old warning telling you to inspect the sling before every use for any damage, and I've done that. And it's interesting, it says exposure of red core warning yarn for slings containing red core warning yarn. Well, if this contains it, I don't see it, so I think it doesn't exist. Knots, obviously there's no knots, I just undid it. Metal fittings that are cracked. See, obviously they use this paper for more things than just this sling. There are no metal parts on this sling. Hooks, there are no hooks. Alright, well, I already read through this. I'm not going to bore you guys with it, but basically, check your slings before each use. Well, high was about 50 today, so the Oliver should start. Rest the starter. Alright, that ought to do it. Backhoe's rear wheel was sunk in the ground almost a foot right there, so had to reposition it. This should be better. I'm on firmer ground. That's as close as I dare get to the side of the truck with the tractor running, with that lousy shuttle shift and bad brakes. So now I'm going to pull the truck and wiggle the truck in position a little better, because I'm not, you can see right there, I'm not lined up enough. Well, that's as good as it gets. I'm lined up pretty good with that center hook this way. And then of course the hook's too far back that way. So what I'm going to do is keep the bucket like that, and that should, the chain will hit that part of the lip of the bucket there and hopefully keep it lined up. Okay, got my chain hooked up, and I also rigged that tie-down strap as a secondary. So now I'm going to start the tractor, take the tension off the chains, and then re-cinch up that strap. I mean, take up the tension.